This conference will now be recorded.
All right, call the meeting to order. Stand for the pledge. Everybody like to hear us?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lord, we gather this day to the important business for the people of the village of Owego. Grant us wisdom, compassion, and understanding. Amen.
All right, so first thing we'll do is public comment. Any public comment? Everybody here for stuff that's on the agenda, right?
Yeah, we're on the agenda, so I'll assume we'll save it for that.
We'll do the crop walk first.
Sure.
You want to hear your pitch?
So I'm Marilyn Murray. I'm one of the coordinators for the Tioga County Crop Walk. We've been doing the crop walk for about 25 years now. I'm not quite sure the total count. The Tioga County Crop Hunger Walk. Crop means communities responding to overcome poverty. The crop walk is going to start at First Baptist Church of Owego. It's 228 Main Street, corner of Church and Main Street. Folks can register at 1:30. The walk begins shortly after 2 p.m. This year, we're going to be blessed with a drum line that's called Purple Lightning. So they'll be leading us off on the walk. Those of you that have these papers here, again, to the folks here at the table, there are two walks. One is about 1.3 miles, the other one is about 3.7 miles. And they go right around through the village. The short one goes right up to John Street at the track, comes back around the Parker's Lane, and then over to St. Paul's. The longer one goes all the way down across the tracks, down to Division Street, back up around down Front Street, down to William Street, and then back up around to St. Paul's Episcopal. St. Paul's Episcopal is the corner of Main and Liberty Street, and they're going to be serving refreshments. So everything's going to take place outside just because of COVID. We go First Baptist. We have a pretty big church, but we decided to just move everything outside and do it that way. So,
Do you mean Main and Temple?
no. St. Paul's is Main and Liberty. Yeah.
Thank you.
We are going to ask folks to wear face masks and social distance, things like that. We are going to have water sprinklers. We'll have people at the different intersections to make sure that folks can cross safely. That's really all I have for you folks. If there's any questions. We try to bring this to you guys every year, just to let you know what's going on. Yes, sir.
How long do you expect it to take?
Usually takes just about an hour for everybody to walk. 9 times out of 10.
Do you need any assistance from our public safety
I don't
police or fire police or anything like that?
No, I think we'll be okay. We've pretty well handled the fire ourselves in the past. My husband being one of the main crossing guards, he usually tries to make sure that he's at each location to get people across the city. So,
Sounds good.
all right, thank you very much, folks. I appreciate it. And
Right, they don't even hit, they're on the sidewalk, so
yeah,
they don't get anything from us.
watch for us out there walking. If you see us, want to come and walk with us. If you look Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, somewhere around there, you see two ladies out put up the signs, so they put them up on the telephone poles to show folks where to go also. Of course, everybody will be walking with their mask. So they'll know where to go.
Be safe, the traffic in this village is just
So let's
crazy
tell you,
these days.
I know, I watch them, I hear them every day. All right, thank you, folks. Have a good night.
Thank you.
very much. Thank you.
All right. Next, let's do the Halloween costume parade thing.
What's
That's
up?
what you guys look for. So I guess, we got. Go for it. What do you guys got? Now we got parade permit.
Yep, so last time we submitted the parade permit and request to close Lake Street to do a costume parade and kind of a flash mob dance thing and just have some street vendors that would stay on the sidewalk or whatnot. What else is going, we're doing?
Lots of things. Just any kind of, we're getting a lot of like local Halloween activities happening. Just want to have a little kind of Halloween small block party.
And we just want to close Lake Street out of safety and just give us a little bit more space. We want the kids to be able to, we're going to judge the contest, so give a little more space for them to move around. And then we hope to do some trick or treating around all the merchants, not just Lake Street, so.
And be able to have like the merchants have their stuff on the sidewalk, and if people want to walk in the street, that's available.
You aware this is the same night that Woodland Rose Club are doing something?
Yes.
We're trying to work with them with the timing with their trunk and treat to do that first and then them to come down.
And they're aware, we've discussed with them, so.
I went around down late, talked to all the businesses. I know you have businesses that have signed, but I personally talked to all of them, they had no problem with this.
Okay.
Originals was the biggest one I talked to, was the honest, I would think, for parking purposes, but yeah, no issues with it.
And we talked to the post office, the last truck has to be in by 6. If they're not in by 6, they know they don't have access. So we're asking to start at 6 till 5
Yes.
to give them that.
We just have 6 to 9 right now.
6 to 9, yep.
So
Did you talk to Park State Bank Investments, Robert Fisher, because of the parking lot is for the residents. Everything else on the street is.
Yeah, I talked to them about the parking lot. I haven't gotten an answer back, but we aren't going to plan on using it if they don't give us access to it. Right?
But, well, you wouldn't use their parking lot, but you would block off their access to their.
Oh, true, yeah.
Yeah, so there is access from the back, but it takes some coordination to go for them to do that.
Okay. And we can reach out to them.
And then you have security for the event.
We just haven't even gotten that far because we've been waiting on if the street's going to be closed or not.
Right.
Because we were just gonna
This
plan
is
around.
our fork in the road.
Yeah.
If we're gonna get access to do that, then we go down half the day.
Yeah, otherwise we would have just planned not having the street closed.
You don't have like your business insurance to cover the street.
It's gonna be covered by HOM.
Okay. Okay. And then.
Under the assumption that your mom was part of this.
It wasn't, when we were initially planning it, we were just looking at the viability of it and to see if it was something that was gonna be, so we didn't involve HOM to begin with, so.
If the street wasn't going to be closed, I was like, there's no point looking for some kind of insurance.
They're on board.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I even talked to Chambers are on board too, just as like a verbal sponsor.
So you would just close the street to through traffic, or you want cars to, because you don't have security and we don't have police to do that.
Well, we wouldn't want cars to be there to try to get out during the event, so we would ask that there's no parking.
That they stay and don't drive out.
Well, that would kind of,
I mean, if that's what they
if,
need, yeah.
if they want to come in and park there for 3 hours, then I guess.
That would involve putting down no parking ahead of time. I'm assuming DPW would be involved in that.
Well, the difference is we're talking about an event or a parade. And so, you have a parade permit and, you can shut down the street and do it. But for an event, we do have to show that you have insurance and.
Okay, well, we started with the parade permit because that's what we were directed towards, because there's not another application or permit request. So we were guided to use that form to start the conversation, and
Right.
you guys let us know what else is needed. This is the first time we're trying to
Yeah,
do this, so
we're just,
we're just doing our best to
Yeah,
try to
hitting walls.
fill out, what is required.
So say if you have the parade, which is like the costume and the judging and some
Yeah.
stuff in the streets, and then you clear it off by a certain time and everything's on the sidewalk anyway, would that be?
or we're kind of hoping it's just like kind of the same feel as Strawberry Fest, where you are able to walk, we have like trick or treating. I don't want some kid running thinking, like if you have all the
You
merchants
start
out
with the
there.
parade,
Yeah.
and have the stuff out there, and then all of a sudden at 7 o'clock,
Yeah,
oh, don't walk in the street.
Yeah.
I mean,
because we have, trying to plan like haunted houses and all this other stuff that's kind of ongoing after the parade costume contest. So I don't want anyone just,
You just wouldn't remove the barriers for
Till
cars
nine.
to drive down the street.
yeah,
Yeah.
But
You
it's
don't
just
have,
late.
like, you don't have stuff set up for the street to be blocked off, for the event, for safety, for people to be on the street, right? And ambulances for the, public safety portion for events.
I think she already said they want it blocked off for the 3 hours, right?
yeah,
that's low request.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you have, my question was, what sort of events do you have besides the parade?
Just like, I'm trying to have everything outdoors. So any merchant that we've talked to that's okay with this, if they do something on the sidewalk, it's like Strawberry Fest. All this stuff being on the sidewalk, you're walking in the street. I don't want anyone scooching around and getting hit by a car and then we're like,
Right. So other than the parade and the contest, everything is on the sidewalk, so it wouldn't.
I mean, everything is on the sidewalk, but it's gonna be tents and like same kind of deal. I just like smaller scale Strawberry Fest. People are gonna be walking back and forth across vendors. We've got like an outdoor movie behind my building there at Local Utopia with Terry. Just, I don't want anyone, like Elks is doing bands, stuff outside.
Yeah.
Ongoing stuff like games. We're gonna probably have something at the M&T after the costume contest, just some ongoing fun things to do, so.
We need to close up the parking lot too, that's our village parking lot.
Behind the movie theater.
Yeah.
Oh, we weren't not planning on closing the parking lot. Just,
For the drivers.
they can still park there and do all that, yeah. Planning to do the movie just like behind my building to alleviate that. Because he wanted to do it on his building, I was like, you can just do it on ours. Out of the way.
Rusty?
So you said the Elks is going to be involved in this? They're going to have bands that night?
Yeah, we're hoping to do the bands inside so they stay warm.
I'm starting to get the feel of, not saying bad or right or wrong, but just getting the feel. It's not going to be Lake Street now. It's going to be around Front Street. It's going to be down the Elks. Just wondering how this is.
We're not closing off those streets though, or want to,
I
yeah.
understand you can't. Because we don't own those. But,
Yeah.
But this is just becoming a larger thing than the Lake Street thing. It's becoming, I'm not saying it shouldn't be a nice community night, but it's becoming larger than just Lake Street.
Yeah.
I wondered if some of the merchants on Front Street, what we wanted to do things.
Oh, we've talked to them too, everyone's included. I just want, and I know Front Street's like, I'm not trying to close off Front
Yeah,
Street.
that,
That's a main road. Right, correct.
Right.
That's why we thought.
But we
it's
don't
easier.
want to not include every merchant in
Yeah.
Owego that wants to. be
Everyone
part
is
of it.
invited, everyone who wants to do stuff, only local, not getting any outside vendors. Kind of just wanted to do something so post-COVID, no Strawberry Fest, we can show that we don't have to funnel a ton of money and we can get people to come to Owego.
I like the whole.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if maybe you shouldn't have some people set up as crossing guards on Front Street there, so that you don't have 5-year-olds backing across the street.
That's not bad.
I mean,
Yeah,
if they're going over to the other side of Front Street,
Yeah.
yeah,
you need to
definitely something,
organize that.
yeah, we can do if the street is gonna be closed, because I mean,
No, I'm saying
everyone,
that
yeah.
Front Street won't be closed. We're
No,
just saying
correct,
Front
yeah.
Street's gonna be
I've also
closed.
told every Front Street vendor if they wanna do their stuff on Lake Street, like, we can work with them to see if to make it all
I don't know
safer.
if you're hearing me. I'm saying, I think you should organize crossing guards between
Great.
Street over
Yes,
the other
Over
side
to
of
the
Front.
side of front.
yeah,
Yes.
Okay.
I think there's a couple of things. We don't want to have a street that's closed with nobody on it. That's one of our concerns.
correct, yeah,
You're alleviating that.
Yeah.
I want to draw your attention to the note on the parade permit said you must contact the police 14 days prior.
Mhm.
That window is even smaller.
Yes,
So
That's why we did it.
Last week about that, like, Penny isn't always easy to get a hold of.
yes. We were figuring we would talk to them after we had the street closed, so we could actually have something to bring them. And that's why we brought the parade permit a month ago.
Just in future, I would have personally done it the other way around. So
Okay.
you have the police back in beforehand. I think it
Yeah.
would make the process less.
Just never
But
done
it's the
it.
first time
Yeah.
I do this, so it's a learning.
Yeah,
I expect, for even though this is a small scale event, that you would need to have police presence at this event. We certainly need, we certainly need to be talking to the police chief about this, but with shortage of manpower, et cetera, so that, he needs to be in on that particular piece of it. And then I'm just gonna finish up the car piece. You don't just tell people that they have to be out of there at 6 o'clock. You have people parked there. They're parking there, they're shopping, they're eating, they're doing things at 4, 5, 5:30. When we do this on some other event, we take the parking off the night before, we take the parking off way hours before. So that is a little problematic with cars that are on the street, don't have the answer. It's a little problematic about telling them, well, you're stuck inside the festival and you can't leave the street. And that's it's a glitch, but that's stuff with the police chief and et cetera.
it sounds like the signs on the post a day or a week before wouldn't be a bad idea. Just to remind them that's happening. If they're stuck in the event, welcome. Have a donut.
Well, if there were signs put up that afternoon saying that the street's closed by 4 o'clock or something, all cars must be off the street by 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
Those things can be done, but now you're asking the merchants for a few more hours of their day. It's another, these are all, when we put up events, these are all the things that we have to look at and think about.
Yes, I'm sure they will, parking is a big concern.
Yeah,
So a lot of those businesses that close at 5 or 6 might be saying, oh yeah, that's great, but now if suddenly somebody says that, and all the cars have to be off the street at 3 or 4, maybe not so great. These are pieces, I'm not trying to. Last, it's a lot of little pieces with these things.
I mean, we could approve it contingent upon, we still need the police chief to sign off on this.
Yeah, I don't know if that's something. Well, we approve it. The police chief, I approved it Tuesday yesterday, so.
I would assume that the police chief will do safety kind of things. It's not his purview to decide when the parking will end and all that kind of thing. That's up to us. But, we'll do.
So as far as the way the permit works, we approve it and the police chief approves it, so.
Our community policing that we're trying to do, which I think it'd be a good idea that somebody be there.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
nice thing too is since all the merchants, I'm telling them to set up on the sidewalk, and that's why it'll be nice to have people walk in the street so they're not running around things, but right at 9, we can move the cones and people can start parking again, because everyone will already be on the sidewalk.
Right.
Possibly, we could ask the fire police to help.
You can ask them. Because I don't know if we can muster the troops, but you can ask them.
Yeah, we want to try it.
That's a different, just,
Yeah.
you don't want to have that.
That's what usually happens. The police usually organize that. That's where that process comes from.
And just on a side issue of that, I appreciate your suggestion, but it's against the rules and not safe to have citizens doing the talking about having crossing guard there and citizens and have volunteers doing that is problematic. I
I don't know what
don't.
about Strawberry Festival, and other times when we close the street.
It's been problematic.
The fire police are out there.
No, I'm not talking about that. No, I was talking about the suggestion of having volunteers do it, and that's problematic having a volunteer in the street doing traffic on a state highway. That's a problem.
That's not village fire.
No,
That's a different.
No, I'm not talking about fire police volunteers. I'm talking about you suggested that they might have volunteers to do the crossing. That has.
Gotcha.
So it'd have to be a fire police.
We need somebody.
And I'm gonna promote all of the stuff that you guys are telling too. So if you say, oh, like, I will definitely say we're just closing off Lake Street. Be warned that Front Street isn't near the Elks, because I'm just like, okay, it's like the same logic of me going from Originals to the Barley Corn. I'm not gonna just run across the street because I'm excited. Correct.
Free candy at the Barley Farm.
And I am there.
I mean, you said the merchants are on board.
Yeah, I talked to them. Yeah. Police chief is the only outlier, but I can imagine would be too many issues, but I'd love to have his input.
Talked to him a little bit today, he didn't have much.
I think when we're meeting before
I
then,
knew what.
But it's almost right to that, it'd be hard.
Yeah, it's
hard to
hard.
foresee stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd like to make a proposition that we allow the parade and event for the Halloween on October 29th, Friday from 6 to 9, contingent on making arrangements with the police department.
Is that a motion?
What was our proposition?
Yeah.
The only thing that I would chime in is just wondering, should the road be closed? I mean, the event itself is from 6 to 9. Should the road be closed before, beyond that time period? Just because it is, time to clean up, and then also you want to provide folks an opportunity to set up and also cars to leave and encourage those folks to leave if they have left enough time.
The only thing with the beforehand is when I talked to the post office, it sounds like their last truck is 6. So I was like 6:15 is when we probably put up a little thing.
they'll just move the barricades.
Okay.
No matter.
Okay, awesome.
If
They'll
we
just
close
follow.
the street to regular parking, we could open the truck.
Okay.
So could that be contingent on the, I know it sounds weird, on the police chief's approval?
Who said that?
For setup times, tear down or something.
His approval and he gets to decide those small details. Something like that.
Well, I think it'd be contingent on, from 6 to 9, contingent on the police chief's approval and discretion for additional time is.
There's additional safety details.
Sure.
Thank you. Would that be?
Sounds very efficient.
It includes time.
But it's delegating to the police chief,
I'm sorry.
Barricades over by the courthouse and I'm gonna have to go set them out. It wants to be a real.
Look at 'em.
Yeah, drive up.
What we'll do is, it's on the 29th, so
Mhm.
like on the 27th, we'll put signs up that say, no parking, 6 to 9, on October 29th, so everybody's got a couple to see that.
The chief,
But I need to know if we're gonna close it from 4 to 10, 6 to 9,
the chief,
5 to.
we're just giving that to the chief and you will do that. That work.
For me.
Perfect.
I'm easy.
Do we have a second on that motion? Oh, Ron, second. All right. Yeah, any discussion about it? Let's vote. You guys, people are, okay, there's my list. All right, Fran?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Rusty?
Yes.
Ron? Yes. Charles, you there?
Yes, I'm here. Yes, I vote yes.
Ed, I see you joining. Are you still there?
Yes.
And yes.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. So who has the action to talk to the police chief? Is that you guys or us?
You guys.
Okay.
If you need contact information, I can help you.
Okay.
Just message me. While Facebook is working.
Okay.
Thanks for giving us some sense of normalcy here.
Yeah, you want a party.
Yeah, sounds like a fun time.
Yeah, it will be.
Thank you.
All right. Let's see what else you want to
Who thought of himself? I'm the only one that'll listen.
And your dog's there,
do. Get a department reports, that's all I have to do.
Mr. Mayor, you know, sometimes I suggest we use department heads quickly so that
Yeah.
they can get out of here.
I was just thinking, Jeff wants the department, keep all in Rob. So, Rob, you want to do your department head report?
Oh, sure, why not?
Is that right?
We had 155 calls for the month of September. Thursday afternoon, I got a bomb dropped in my lap of the monster truck thing down at the fairgrounds, and that was a fiasco and a half. The event itself, I guess, went off okay, but there was poor communication between the event organizer, the people that were there running it, and the vendors and things like that. So originally, they were gonna give free food to us, for being there, and then they tried to backpedal, and then I threatened to leave, and all of a sudden we got free food again. But when I'm sitting there for 9 hours and, and we all volunteer time, but it went off really well with the volunteers helping out to cover that. God bless you for what mess there is in that part. Other than that, everything's gone well. Oh, we're doing that later though, right? You doing this later, right, Nate?
I'll do the ambulance contract now.
An hour later.
Oh, we're doing
Mike, you want to do the ambulance now?
Oh, yeah.
I asked Nate a few months ago before football season had started and about getting a contract with the school district and having us set by their games at $50 a time. We thought they were only gonna want us for the varsity, and then they decided that they wanted us for modified JV at varsity. So while the contract was getting written up, in the meantime, we had a document that we had them, the athletic director sign a date each time that we were there, so that we had an ongoing list of dates and times that we were there. So it got sent back with the changes that Nate wanted, just because they didn't have our entity called correctly. So that's been done. So that's helpful, and thank you, Nate, for getting it done.
My question about the contract is, it came up before the meeting. If our ambulance is sitting there on contract and we get a call, are we obligated to stay in the game?
You have to stay in the game. Like, even if there's somebody injured, this is like this, obviously wrong with them. But anyway, if there's somebody that gets injured, we start the care, call for another ambulance to transport it, because they have to have an ambulance there at all times.
So you have volunteers on call?
Yep. Well, we are pretty much.
Volunteers scheduled for that time.
Yep. Yeah, we put a schedule up and they sign up for that, and those are people that are not on the regular shift rotation. They're just extras.
So we still have our normal.
Correct. We do not pull away from our normal schedule.
How many working trucks do you have?
I'm not, don't say it. Don't say it. I just, that's why I did this.
So we don't have an issue there.
Yeah.
We still have our two normal crews, response and stuff going on.
Well, we have a primary area. Secondary is whoever, is able to jump in and take it.
We cover most of those, so.
We do. Got a good group of people. Really good.
We cover most of the third calls too, so.
Huh?
We cover most of the third calls, too.
We do. The new rig did go back to New Jersey to have the correct oxygen tank lift put in and was brought back, so.
So are we allowed to enter into contract and charge the school district with what things we can charge for ambulance stuff?
Yeah, it's not a charge for actual provision of medical services either. I mean, this is just have bodies in an ambulance there. It's not actual providing service. Under the, I think it's the stack requirements for holding football games specifically, they have to have an ambulance there.
Yeah, that's what they have to have, but
Yeah.
do we,
You know, but so if a student gets injured, like football, or somebody in the stands gets injured, I don't know what, and we transport, we would charge like we would anybody else.
so anyways, it's okay for us to charge $50 for an ambulance there to provide medical care on scene.
Yeah, it's not to provide medical care, it's to shorten the response time effectively.
Be present.
It's basically to have an immediate response instead of waiting for somebody to call 911 and the ambulance take 5, 10 minutes or whatever it takes to get there.
But I said that's to get there, provide care on site. Then if they need to go somewhere, we have to then get another ambulance over there.
It's just a quick swap up.
If, I assume if our volunteers end up providing care on site and there's no transport, we would still be able to bill based on the normal provision of like, if we showed up at a scene and the person refuses transport, but there's some care provided, if we bill for that. I don't recall exactly.
Well,
My question.
let's put it, no. It's no different than like we did for the monster truck thing there, you know. There was people got stung by bees, we took care of that, we're not billing. You know, it's just, you're there to provide assistance,
First aid.
you know, first aid, that's what it is. And it's the same thing that if somebody sprain their ankle, you wrap it with ice and whatever, boom, done. It's not a billable thing. We don't do that. That's
Yeah,
not what we're out
if
for.
it's not something we're billing for anyway.
No, it's just
But the $50 is to guarantee that you have a rig there.
yes.
So this, when I first read this, I thought this was a 4 times a year varsity football game. This is a whole bunch of football.
Originally, that's what we thought all they wanted was to have, normally that's all we've covered in the past.
It's one,
Okay, it's
it's
varsity.
4 home games.
For however many they have to have it. But this year they wanted us for the rest, so, okay.
So, well,
And we're almost done with it, pretty much. We've pretty much almost filled the seat and done it with signatures and dated documentation before this actually got finalized, because, you know, lawyers take some time to decide.
so we agreed to do this. Somebody agreed to do this without. Authorization.
I believe the EMS squad has been actually doing this for how many years now?
Oh, yeah, lots. We've been covering football games forever.
And so I think Robin was the one who said we should have a written contract in place with the school. And so this is reflecting the agreement that has been kind of unwritten. I don't know if in the past the village board approved it at some point, you know, years and years ago, and it's just continued or what, but certainly the village doesn't have to, or if you wanted to negotiate an increased fee for it, I mean, that's certainly the board's prerogative.
Does it ever reach in any other sports? Like soccer?
It's never, Owego hasn't done it, but like when Nerd Valley had the massive track meets or whatever, they had a certain number of people, they would request an ambulance be there. I have not encountered that yet here. Of course, it's been COVID for a few years, so, you know, basically a couple years at least. So that has been put on hold, so I haven't had to experience doing that for anybody yet.
I was just curious if that was coming down the pipe.
Well, if they end up having, I would assume the school districts know, because I know Nerd Valley knows that if they have a certain number of mass people going to be there, that they need to have an ambulance provided. So I would assume, because I don't know Owego, because you know what I mean. So, but they would do the same thing, but
Can I ask where the $50 fee amount came from? Or why we don't charge more for your the amount of time that you're there?
Well, it's really just a standing fee. Basically, most of the time, all you're doing is sitting there idling, okay? And so it's only pretty much just for what fuel you may or may not use, sitting there. Because we have to keep the ambulances running to keep them charged,
Right, and that's a lot of fuel, right?
but not for diesel.
Okay.
So to sit there and, the people themselves are volunteering their time, that's not an issue. It's just, that's been an ongoing fee for every school district around, is $50 for a
Oh,
football.
everybody's charging them.
So I wasn't going to make it any different because it's the standing thing for Vestal, North Valley. Pay $50.
There to get to watch a football game.
Yeah. Big deal.
We didn't just pull the $50 on it, like.
No, it's been a standing thing amongst the different districts.
Okay.
So,
It may seem weird, I'd be more comfortable with this if it, and it says here something about football game. The first sentence says, agrees to provide an ambulance at district event sites for each game, in the first part, and then later it says, the village understands that current league rules require an ambulance and staff are present on location for each football game. To me, that's not the language that I like. It doesn't, the first thing says that we're gonna be there for each game, then the later thing says something about football games. I would be more, just telling you how I'm more comfortable. I'd be more comfortable if this contract said that it was for this year and it wasn't automatically renewable and it was for the football games this year. And I'd also still like to know how many football games this is. But you said you're almost done anyways, right?
yeah, they're pretty close to being done.
So there is a reference to a Schedule A, which is the football schedule. So it is the home games for.
Okay, so attach the schedule, I maybe that's someplace here.
Yeah, it wasn't, I believe it was provided. I mean, it's minor.
We
The understanding
got
is that
one
it's the football games.
posted at the,
With the school
yeah.
And this is the form that was proposed by the school's attorney. If the board wants it to not be automatically renewed, okay, I can take all that feedback.
It is
back
the
and
same,
say, sorry, no automatic renewals, it's just gonna be year on, every year, it needs to be worked.
it is the same format that we had with the North Valley School District and it's not really anything different.
Well, it says either party may cancel this
I didn't
within
understand North
60
Valley.
days.
What about North Valley?
That's the North Valley School District doesn't have the same agreement.
With you?
No,
Oh, well, so some other school district has some other agreement with somebody else.
yes, but it's the same format, the same price, the same reason.
Well, item number 5 says that either party may cancel this agreement within 60 days written notice to the other parties.
Yeah.
So it's not saying it's permanent. It can be canceled anytime.
Yeah, we didn't do that this time, did we?
It says it right here.
No, we didn't do it this year. We didn't discuss it, we didn't talk about it, we didn't do anything, and now it's been going on for a month or
Yes,
so.
we did. We talked about it back at the beginning of August.
Oh.
And Nate said he would get the contract written up.
Correct.
Okay.
Not last minute.
So for this contract, if we add that it's for the varsity football, we add that it's for the school year 2021 to 2022.
It's not just varsity though.
It's not just.
Okay, so it's just football. We just say we go after league in football.
So we solved that by only having Schedule
I
A
see.
be the football games. Like, the only items that are ambulance and personnel required to show to are things specifically identified in that schedule.
In the
And
Schedule
it is the football game
Okay.
schedule.
Yeah.
Nothing required for soccer or other sport.
To me, I'd rather scratch out that last sentence and just leave it as Schedule A. And then if it is soccer or field hockey or whatever, you just add it to Schedule A and they can still go and collect $50.
Joel, you would need to amend Schedule A,
Or-
which would take board action. You would need, if you wanted to delegate to the EMS department authority to amend Schedule A for other sporting events or just other events as needed, I mean, you could, basically give Robin authority to any school sporting event, which an ambulance is needed, Robin can, if she has the volunteers and an ambulance available, cover it under the existing agreement. I mean, you could also do that. I mean, we can go whichever way you want.
I want us to have control over this. We got the school, I want us to have control over how much, when we're gonna do it, how long we're gonna do it. Well, I'm comfortable with it. When soccer comes up, we can always amend this at that point.
Or make it the same. 20 minutes a second.
No, we've never been this.
Well, who knows?
I'm surprised like with wrestling, so more like contact type sports, lacrosse.
Usually if they're gonna have a huge event with wrestling, things like that, they ask somebody that they know is an EMT if they would be willing to volunteer their time in the gymnasium. And it's not a paid, it's just, would they be willing to volunteer? I've done that.
So it needs to be done on this.
Make a motion.
Okay, I make a motion that we accept the ambulance contract with the Owego Appalachian Central School District as written.
Second that.
Any more discussion about the capital projects? Vote on that, Fran,
Yes.
Laura,
Yes.
Rusty,
Yes.
Ron,
Yes, he says.
Shar,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
I don't need to turn his
And yes.
screen on to vote with the law.
so
The executive order. Executive order.
well, no, we gotta do it.
Well, yeah, it's an amendment.
Yeah, we have to like see his face to know that him.
Get it like that. It's cleared up already. Are you good, Robin?
Yeah.
You good?
I don't have anything additional to my email report.
Informational thing. They're from the monster truck thing. There are bees nests in the grandstand. If you go right up next to the moose, food stand there, then
Mhm.
walk up to the top. Big hole.
There's one on the main part in the front too as well.
They try to block it off for people to just run around it.
Don't sit there.
Yeah, we tried that, didn't work. People still say.
Well, the cotton candy didn't have to do that.
Now,
Yeah,
what is being done to
Snow
repair
cones.
the, what's being done to repair that infield?
They're supposed to have the curtain.
They already did.
Are you satisfied?
Yeah.
They
They
did
did
a
a great
great
job.
job. Grass seed.
Yeah, it's seated already.
Grow.
Yeah. But it's time to do it.
And
I would
all-
like to thank Jeff for filling the major potholes up in the cemetery. Good job.
We still got a few more to take care of.
Yeah, I know you'll get to them yet this fall. Thank you.
But in my pile here, I just found public comment from September 7th. I guess somebody attended the meeting and stuff, anyway. Storm drains on the end line. Something wrong.
Yeah, I talked to Tracy about that, he was gonna look into it.
We both went over it. I'm not sure what the problem is.
And somebody contacted me about drains on Main Street and Lake Street and Main Street front of businesses there, just the crosswalk for the pools. We used to run a street sweeper there, but now I guess.
Main and Lake.
And Main at Fireman's Crossing there. Or
Every time of year, the leaves are falling.
Right.
I guess it was before. Just go along. No, it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had something I'm probably not going to do it this evening because it hasn't been. I'm going to be looking at and proposing a change to our Marvin Park registration reservation form. Presently, the fee is $250 a day for somebody to rent that entire park, close it off to anybody and everybody, anywhere and everywhere. And some of that, I'm not going to get into a big discussion about it. We'll talk about it some offline, this and that. But generally, if somebody's going to have a large event in there, that they are going to be a retail making money event, that should be significantly more than that. The deposit, depending on the feel of the potential damage, should be significantly more than $600. When we have the Walk for Life or something walking around the thing and it's a nonprofit and they're not charging anybody money, that some differences in there. That might be a $250. But
That's very true. This was a
Commercial.
good event, but it shows us that
we need that. We're gonna need that. Yes. So we're gonna need that. I'm
private events on the house construction.
So I'm certainly gonna be looking at updating that. for that.
Well, it sounds like they did pretty good, but I mean, there was a potential there.
But we're lucky.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, $600, see you later.
Right.
Yeah.
Champion Speedway. They gave him $4,000 down the game.
You told me so.
So we're gonna be a big strong.
So they got a deal.
And they made over $100,000. We were figuring that up on, when we were sitting there for 10 hours.
I didn't want to give you free food?
Yeah, well, that's why I forgot to leave.
It's nice to see a different event.
Yeah, it's a little more advanced though, so it's.
Not every.
Yeah.
Sorry, I missed the
Yeah, no, it's a good example. I have a video of the human cannonball up here.
All right, anything else?
Not really. Just like awesome trips.
The building looks good. You got a police chief?
I do.
Chief?
Fire chief has no requests, because there's always requests of everybody. No report requests at this moment. The police chief has a couple of items. He would like, assuming he needs our permission, he would like to host an event at the Marvin Park on Friday, October 22nd. He wants to have a bonfire, a community bonfire. He wants to have it from 5:30 to 9:30. It will be sponsored by, you talked about that, have you?
Briefly, yes.
To some degree, incorporated, sponsored, whatever we want to talk about, by the fire, EMS, police. Wants it to be for the whole community. Said 5:30 to 9:30. Bonfire would start at 6-ish. They have, in anticipation of this, they're getting donations. I believe there will be no cost to the village to do this. There'll be foods and beverages, not adult beverages. We'd like to use the pavilion that we allow the fire department to have some degree of use of, like that. Use that pavilion for the food. They'll have music and a band. They'll have a hay ride around the track with a wagon and horses. That's the most of the stuff. They're trying to get other things involved, and also the sheriff of the state police would be involved in this. They would like to have us waive the $250 fee for the Marvin Park residential home. The chief has made one of these out yet.
I saw a picture of it.
So he is.
I've given him one, but he's.
Okay. They would like us to waive the $250 fee
I'll bring it tomorrow.
for this event. If that's most of it.
Excuse me, where's the fire? In the middle of the infield?
Yeah.
So that's gonna have to be repaired.
We have to figure out where it's going to go and
Gonna have to reseed it again.
depending on where the fire goes, if it goes on dirt or if it goes on grass or wherever the fire happens to be put. We certainly have to repair anything.
Thrown underneath or otherwise.
Can't hear you.
I'd like all of the bullshit detritus, the bricks,
I understand that.
the cinder blocks, the rocks, everything that we've left out there.
You might want to read that all.
No.
There we go.
I would assume that our police department and fire, since the fire department is involved in this, I assume that they will be smart enough to be safe and put this in place that will not be dangerous or cause damage. And take care of it if they do. Yeah, so I assume that that will be.
So Rusty,
I don't know the detail.
when you talk to the chief,
Mhm.
I think the applicant wouldn't need to be the village departments. It's really probably like the Police Benevolent Association, the volunteer
Posting.
fire company, nonprofit entity, the nonprofit EMS squad that are applying for this. Because if they're soliciting donations, it all needs to be going through those entities, not the village. The village cannot fundraise.
Yeah, I think that the donation stuff is individuals and private rather than college. So,
Yeah, I mean, but it sounds like an event that's put on by these nonprofit entities, which all of course comprise the membership of all of our various departments, but it's not the departments themselves. Because the village is not hosting this event. It's these nonprofit groups.
Well, technically, the police, they like to have a certain number of community events to meet their community policing requirements, and this is one of those events. And so it is the actual police department doing their outreach instead of their partner organizations doing fundraising.
Well, then, I mean, if it's the department that's doing it, then there needs to be a clear distinction between whoever's doing the fundraising for this. Because we cannot solicit donations.
Right.
And I think by donations, they don't mean like donations, I think they mean like. or just-
Yes, exactly. They got donations
It's
to
still-
give away
it's still
food.
donations.
By selling food and beverages, that's their.
They're not gonna sell it.
No, they're giving it.
This is all free.
Oh, okay.
And,
yeah.
and that's a fair point, in which case, I don't believe they necessarily need to make an application if, or, I mean, it's nice to make them go through it, but it's our own, we're doing it ourselves.
And I wasn't actually, yeah, I mean, in one sense, I don't know whether, yeah, as you say, I don't know whether we actually need to have them do that. But I just wanted us to have agreements to it and approval of their plan. That's the intention here.
Rusty, what was the date of that again?
That is, 22nd, Friday of October, 5:30 to 9:30.
He planned it that way because he didn't want to encroach on the other event, which is the next.
Next weekend, it was thought of the next homecoming. Probably.
Yeah, next weekend's homecoming is 52. And then 29th is the Halloween event. We put it in the middle.
What day is homecoming?
15th of October.
Are you making this a motion?
Yeah, I'd like us to give our approval for the fire department. I was under the impression the EMS was included in on this with the chief. Fire department, EMS, and police department to have the event I described.
That was our idea, like a couple of years ago, we did separate events with the EMS and fire.
Well, yeah, he did it, but he did
One
it.
thing you did.
That was not a question. I
Yeah.
just couldn't remember the date. He told me he was gonna get back to me again. I haven't heard from him since.
So that's the motion, is that we
Is there
approve the bonfire event.
a budget associated with it then? I mean, if it's a village event and there's
No.
money being expended by it.
We're not going to spend any village money.
Well, there's no need to waive the fee if it's the village itself that's doing the event.
True, okay.
But that motion will include to waive any possible fee.
But you would charge yourselves as.
I don't care if there's some glitch here, we're going to waive that.
Need to have it in there too. All repairs will be done by these departments.
So again, it's the village doing it itself.
Yeah.
You don't even. DPW needs to go fix it.
Right. I told the chief that we would.
The chief will take care of it. The chief's going to take care of it. The chiefs are gonna take care of it. It's not- They're just not, they're not gonna say, oh, tough crap, we're not fixing that.
Oh, we're not saying that, we're just saying that we should have just left the dirt there and not put the grass up.
So they're gonna have to fire the dirt.
Yeah, yeah.
Just so we know how to do it.
What was the wording in the motion?
Right.
Out here too, you're gonna have the bonfire put on by the fire EMS police event Friday, October 22nd, 5:30 to 9:30. Waive any possible fees, repairs to be done by DPW and police department as needed.
Okay.
We say too many things too much that we, sometimes we say things we don't.
I'll second that.
So we will vote. Fran,
Yes.
Laura. Rusty.
Yes.
Ron.
Yes.
Charles.
Yes.
Yeah, we muted him.
Did you hear my yes?
We did. Wait there. Ed, there.
Carefully.
Yes.
Okay.
So, Laura did ask, and I just reviewed quickly, I believe that I can vote even without having his radio face on there. The reason is that the law passed by the state legislature says, as long as the public can view or listen, so it's an order, as opposed to a requirement that he be visible. The meeting just needs to be recorded and transcribed, like fire.
And yes for me.
Can I add one more thing from the police department? The event, at the fairgrounds this weekend had a private security company and it did not go well. The police chief requests that the village establish a rule or resolution that private security companies that want to do events or other things in the village of Owego need to register with the police department and show proper certifications and recommend certifications, et cetera. So, people in security are required to have licenses, laws, et cetera, et cetera. It appeared that there were numbers of problems with the security there and his looking, there's a pretty good chance that they didn't. So, don't have the particulars on whether we're interested in doing this, but that is something that
I think that we could build it into the permit itself, just requirement that they provide proof that any security company hired has certified staff on hand, et cetera. We don't need a board resolution, it's just built into the new form.
except that the chief is not, I asked him about that, it isn't just for a Marvin Park event, it would be for village-wide things. It's an event or other, so if somebody wants to come in here with any kind of private security, they need to show credentials for the security. I don't know, go about that.
Yeah, so, I mean, I can think of a couple of ways that we could potentially do it. The chief did email me about this. I don't have another client that I'm aware of a law that requires this. Insofar as you already provide approvals for events, you can condition those approvals. We have before on proper permits from the Department of Health for food service or DOT approvals. We could include submission of the license for wine, liquor, and beer tents. So as long as they provide proof of that 72 hours before the event, you're all good. Similarly, whichever security company, if there's a requirement that they have security, needs to provide proof of compliance with registration certificate, whatever it might be. So I think that we just build it into the normal approval process. It's something that the board actively considers. Is security a part of this? Yes, no, so we provide proof they're registered.
So Nate, what approvals would cover a monster truck rally?
Say that again, Ed?
What approvals would cover a monster truck rally?
Well, and that's a good question. I think mean, I wasn't aware of the monster truck rally. I think because of the village's current permit process for Martin Park specifically, that was just with Jeff Souls' approval. And so we would build into the Martin Park permit application, I think, a requirement that these things be addressed in the Martin Park process.
Right.
And so what I'm just trying to say is when the village board approves the form for use of Martin Park, we can build into that if there's security being provided, if they provide that proof of registration certification. And then outside of the Marvin Park area, which is what Rusty was talking about, I think, any events or other parades within the village, which goes through the village board, we have that as a condition.
We really,
So at what point does Jeff not have the authority to approve an application for a monster truck rally?
That's a great question, Ed, and I think that's a conversation for the board. You know, do you want some of these types of events to go to the village board? And you very well might make the decision that maybe for-profit events or events expected to attract more than X hundreds of people need to go to the village board for.
right now, you just fill that form out, let the park.
Doesn't show anything as discretion.
Well, I mean.
I have a question. I have a question involving that monster truck rally. Was it okay for them to shut down the entire park? Because I know the Marvin Park is a public park. I heard they shut down the playground, the pool area they had roped off, and that's not cool. I mean, I understand they want to make every dollar they can by having people view their event, but you know, some things are unavoidable. I mean, if you sit outside across the highway from Tiger Downs, you can watch the fireworks. If you sit outside in the parking lot of a concert, you can hear the music. So what was the deal with that?
Yeah, so Charles, I could tell you, I drove over there because the noise was deafening from the monster truck rally over here in my house. And it was the entire park was open. You could drive all the way around. They had security there. They had OPD there. Now, is that my cup of tea? No, but I think they handled it about as well as they could.
Oh, okay, because I had got with them. They must have came out after the fact because I heard people saying it was all roped off.
Oh, you could drive through there. You could drive through the entire park.
Yeah, so that form, you rent the whole park, so you can do whatever you want to do, I guess. Now, does that, want to keep the form? Probably not.
Yeah, I mean, I just looked at our parks law and it talks about how people can reserve use of the pavilion or other areas of the park in accordance with the village board's rules and regulations. And so, I mean, we could carve out more detail into these and say, yeah, which is what Rusty has kind of talked about doing by updating this form. And
We were gonna do it tonight.
yeah. If there's a concern that something like this might happen again immediately, I think the board could tonight adopt a resolution requiring, until we've updated the form, all new applications for use of the park to go through the village board. I don't know how long it's going to take us to update this, of course. But I mean, if there's a concern that somebody might come and do another monster truck, maybe these folks said, wow, we could do monster truck rallies every week. It's real cheap. And that would be a valid concern.
No, I agree with you, Rusty. I mean, as we develop Marvin Park more and the North Avenue Art Park, I mean, we're gonna have more specific regulations on usage.
And that's part of the goal, right? So we have over $1 million from the DRI for Marvin to approve it, to use it for more things.
Right.
Like the monster truck rally. Clearly, we need to develop our rules and forms better to go along with all of that.
So Jeff, what do you think about that particular suggestion from the attorney that we agree with permit, this type of permit for all park that
fine with me.
to get you out. Okay.
That's fine with me. It's just, we're talking block races and all that stuff.
Well, they're nonprofits, so would it be the same scenario?
Well, so
Try not to detail it.
the idea would be a moratorium on, not a moratorium, but a requirement that all applications for the park go through the village board as of now until the form is developed. And then nonprofit residents. I mean, you could carve it a little differently, I mean.
Well, that's fine with me. Anything to get something out of my hands is fine with me.
But we can make a motion that we adopt a resolution now that until we revise the reservation system for the Marvin Park Hall, requests come before the village.
I'll second that.
You guys get that, Ed and Charles?
Yes, I heard that.
All right, any discussion about that? Oh, Fran,
Yes.
Laura,
Yes.
Rusty,
Yes.
Ron,
Yes.
Charles,
Yes.
Ed, Claire. All right, I vote yes.
And it doesn't have to be done tonight. If you want us to look at it, you can spoken with the police chief about the potential of security, so I want us to
Right.
look at that offline after today.
Yeah.
The whole list of things.
Yeah.
Gina's gonna do it all.
Perfect. We need to do that, just a general, I could do that with that. For gathering, permit, whatever we can do.
Mass gathering permit.
We talked about that before.
Because that would play into all this stuff in part two. Is that what that mass gathering? We had approved.
Well, it was the whole village.
Do you want us to dust off the mass gathering law?
Thanks. You can do it.
You should dust off.
Yeah. Need to finish it.
Good job.
We need to increase our fees
Yes.
on everything, not just Marvin Park.
That's another.
Really permits everything.
So I would recommend for fees in general, you build into your annual meeting a new adoption, a review of the fees. Right. Have all your department heads and, submit proposals for fees for the next year. Or you do it in your budget time, whichever one.
I see in the code book that fees are a chapter in the code book. Do fees have to be a part of local law?
They do not have to be. Lots of municipalities have fees in the local law. It says fees will be set by resolution from time to time.
Because that's, so I would like us to have fees set by resolution, so we want to change up the public hearings and law, just.
So ours is
Okay.
Well, we have a set of suggested fees.
Well, the fees we have currently are severely outdated.
Yeah. Depending on whether it's a commercial,
You're talking,
entertainment.
you're talking about this, we're talking about all fees.
That's right.
The chapter.
Even like a sewer hookup, $350.
Oh,
That
okay.
includes that thing in the street, fixing
We
the
need to
street.
review all those fees.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I would strongly recommend that you ask all of your department heads to comprehensively review all of the fees and propose new fee schedules for the village board to review. And then if some of them require local laws, we'll do the resolution, we'll do those, but you need the information from your department.
Could we set a goal for that? By June or before budget time?
For the end of the year.
You know, pretty much do that. Me, as long as we get the comprehensive review from the department heads.
Yeah, however you guys want to roll it out. You just need, the mayor directs the department heads to produce a report showing suggested fees.
Only 30 years of selling.
Yeah, Fran's suggested, good, not by the first of the year, things, we've got lots of things. So, by the first of, yeah, by the first of the year, that would be cool. The first of this year, January.
150, for example, wants to raise their petty cash from 200 to
Well, that's on the thing.
100.
Did we decide how much petty cash they can have?
Yeah, he wants 500. They have to keep receipts out.
They have expenses, he's talked about that, they didn't have enough money to buy some things, so we talked about raising petty cash limit. If it's something that we have to approve of, then do it. And what was the number that?
So 200.
So is that, you can approve that they can have $500 petty cash on the end?
Don't know how you set petty cash limits previously.
I don't even think.
We have it passed.
Okay, so I move that we change the police department's petty cash limit from $200 to $500,
A second,
from whatever it was to $500.
a second.
Any discussion on that? Brad?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Rusty?
Yes.
Yes. Charles?
I vote yes on that.
Ed? There?
That's-
Maybe not.
Now it's all police stuff.
We'll do the, get anything from department head stuff?
Tracy has something. You'll probably be right here this October 12th, they're going to be doing Green Street.
Oh, yes, they are. I would like, Charles called you.
He interviewed a gentleman for the job office in the service list, and so I'm going to recommend he do the same thing he just did. But notice it out in the papers and search process.
Okay.
That's all I've got. That's all Tracy's got.
Thank you. It'd be the resolution JCAP grant. Judge gave us. That's applied to $30,000, up to $30,000 to upgrade the sound system in the courtroom, purchase an AED, and purchase a locking file. The resolution also approves me to sign on it.
So was there, that was what David asked for earlier, but he was hoping to potentially move his place, and so he's going to ask to be able to find a new building, and that's not happening. Small building, he's now asking, which we talked about before. Right. And it had to be in pretty quick here for the things in the open. Therefore, move that we approve his applying to the JCAP for $3,000.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any discussion about that? Just applying for gets it. Brad?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Rusty?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Charles?
Yes, I vote yes on that.
Ed?
Yes.
And yes.
That's not on that roll call
Ed.
On the resolution, I've got, yep.
All right, transfers and year-end encumbrances, we'll do that next. And then they get sent in like clerk's office, and then
I'm just trying to move stuff along. Have you looked at these pretty much?
yeah, the only thing that's not in there is the police chief wanted a plate scanner,
I recall that.
and we figured out how to do that.
So it won't be in this, we can add that later.
No, we're gonna,
We can add that right now.
we're gonna add now, because I put too much in for trees, cemetery, I put 30, but we've already got 15 in there.
Didn't he need around 18 grand or something, like later on the?
So we'll take that out. I was gonna just put him in for 15.
We'll find the other.
Get money for that, every extent, later. So, add 15 grand in the appropriate place here for chief. You're good with the rest? So I'm gonna make a motion that we accept all the encumbrances and transfers as per the sheet. With the chief, with the chief.
I'll second.
Nope, I got from
Oh, Ron.
Any other discussion, questions on those?
Well, just the detail about the cemetery was 30,000 and it should have read 15,000 on the card.
We've already, I had 15,000.
Right, and I saw that got paid in the bills. And then on this portion, it's going to go up 18 for the
So we're gonna pay, we're encumbering 15 grand.
15 just like that.
The
Okay,
15 we took out.
cool. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on those? Hold on, Brad,
Yes.
Laura,
Yes.
Rusty,
Yes.
Charles,
Yes, yes.
Yes.
and yes. Let's see, other easy stuff about payment of bills. I filled it out inside. Anybody have any questions on the payment of bills?
We got some money.
Or I don't like paying bills.
I didn't see anything that was unexpected.
Just to see if I catch it. Like an audit?
Oh.
So we have a motion to accept the payment of bills.
I'll motion to.
I'll second.
Any questions about it? Frank? Laura? Rusty?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Charles?
Yes.
Minutes? Should we do those?
Minutes of 9/20/21, there's two spaces where things need to be inserted. So for the election law, we usually just insert that. But then there's one space for Rusty. Do you want to fill that in now?
Obviously.
Yeah.
I just got these today. I haven't had an opportunity to get back to right with that. So as we did before, I'll approve these. Fine.
You just have to tell me over your list. Everything else, you could approve, you'll do it next show.
I can, we set the moment first.
That's what I did for all my.
Yeah.
That's fine.
So we want minutes to the next meeting? All right, so I put on the agenda discussion on local law number 2, and public hearing. Close the public hearing. We're gonna bring it up. We don't have to do it. We did get which I didn't read, a public comment, but we got a public comment letter. You want me to pass it around? Everybody get it?
I got the email.
Yeah, I read it.
You got a couple letters. Show Curtis. I mean, you got this one today. Got some in between meetings that one that entered into the record. No,
I only got 2 that were addressed to the planning board.
so Shelby wrote a letter. She wrote one for the planning board, one for the village board, and one for the zoning board. It was all the same letter, but she wanted it for each of the meetings. Alina Rhea, she submitted a letter, to be read at the for this meeting and emailed it ahead of time.
So if the public hearing is closed, then even the written submissions, they should have been provided at the public hearing or prior to the closing of the public.
Well, these are emailed letters that were sent in ahead of time for people asked them to be included for this meeting. So, I mean, if they're entered at the end of the meeting during public comment, that's okay. They did send them in.
Yeah, that's all I'm trying to clear. If they're not ready for the public hearing letter, if there's correspondence to the village board, then that's in the correspondence communication section.
Yeah, the Gatto letter was sent in before the public hearing. On 20th.
Jeff Laura Jones says, public comment. She doesn't say public hearing, it's public comment.
So the Gatto letter should be included in our minutes, our last meeting.
Yeah, people send them in so that they're entered into the record. They ask that they be
So
read.
I should make a copy of that to Rhonda.
Is it the village's practice to insert all communications full blown in the minutes, or just to have an acknowledgement of receipt of communication from us?
That's sent on Monday before the planning board meeting. The village board meeting.
The one on 20th was Gatto was on the
It was
20th.
not. I didn't receive it until Monday, the day before the planning board.
We got two for the planning board meeting.
I know I got my emails from them, but they sent it to all the trustees, but
I
I
haven't
received it
checked.
after the village board meeting, which is perfectly fine.
Yeah, no, we got two for the planning board meeting.
There was a very long one from Kevin Millar also.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah. So there was also a problem with the village's website with losing all of our contact information. So when residents wanted to look up the names of who's on their board of trustees, all of our information was missing, all the planning board's information, the zoning board's information was all missing from the website. And your email, Mayor, your email is bouncing back from both your new and your old, and so is Roz as the clerk. His emails are bouncing back from the new address and the old address. So citizens are having a hard time getting, their
All I can say is I get
stuff in.
hundreds of emails a day, and I set up the bounce back from the old one just to tell people to update their address books. I still get the emails.
Yes.
But
That's the bounce back saying, use the new address.
as far as the website, we got a new website, and it's not perfect yet. There are all the legal requirements of our contact information being on the website.
You don't even need a website. If you have a website, then you should have correct information on there, but I'm not aware of a specific requirement in your website list your contact information.
I use the old website. When I search Owego, that's what pops up. So that's what I go to.
The old one.
I mean, it's a good idea to, of course, to have it work. My only reason for saying, people submit things in writing on a specific topic. It should be submitted during the public hearing, prior to the public hearing, so that it can be made a part of the record for that specific matter. Anything else is during the other public comment section, not a public hearing. And it's also just as a communication to the board, again, not part of the public hearing itself.
Yes, I agree with Nate's characterization of that. This was not submitted during the public hearing. This is a public comment submission. If she cared enough to make it part of the public record for that local law public hearing, she could have submitted it timely to that.
Oh, it's fine. It's just that the mayor brought up a letter that was received for this topic. And I was just pointing out that there are more letters that we received for this topic. They just won't be read until the end of the meeting for public comment because,
I think it goes for public comment, either this one specifically says Monday, October 4th, public comment. That's what I'm reading it.
okay. Anyways, I guess, I speak about the local law. It is very important to me for our community. Some people have said that we don't need the flood law and that like the state says we don't have to have it. And that's true. Like we don't have to have protective laws for our citizens, just like we don't have to have laws for having sex offenders not live next to schools. But it's really good that we do have them because they're protecting our community. And 80 to 90% of our community is in the floodplain. And so by putting this law back into code, what we're doing is asking for all new big development when they're bringing in infill that they direct any additional water back into the water course or that they net zero their impact on the community. So whatever infill they bring in, they just need to make sure that it net zeros to not negatively impact the neighborhood, their neighbors and our streets. And if their project, whatever developer's project can't meet that requirement, then they have to go to the planning and zoning board for a variance. To ask for sorry. They just need to ask for a variance to ask the project to go forward because they couldn't meet the law. And because our the flood insurance rates now, national flood insurance rates, the risk rating 2.0 has come out. And 70% of our village will be getting the rate hike. So 70% of our citizens are going to have their flood insurance go up. And it's striking because for me, my house is sort of has this the taxable value, the resale value of my house is like $89,000. I'm able to pay. I was able to pay my flood insurance to cover only $60,000 to keep my level down, right? And I do struggle to pay my flood insurance bill as it is. So I was able to pay on the $60,000. However, Risk Rating 2.0 judges your property on its replacement value. So the market values of our houses here are really low, but the replacement values of our homes are quite high. So when I got my house elevated for the elevation, my replacement value at my house at that time was $360,000. So next time I pay my flood insurance, I can't pay on the $60,000 that I have. I got to pay to cover $360,000 replacement value of my home. 70% of the people here are going to pay both with me. And so the village has an opportunity to get into the CRF community rating system. It's the only way we have to reduce flood insurance for our community, for ourselves, and for our citizens. And what we can do is we can get a discount. And the more that we do for our community, the bigger discount that we can get for our community. But the only thing that we can do to raise to lower flood insurance rates that we have, the federal government, is to get in the CRF program. It's tough. There's a lot of paperwork. It's the only thing we can do for our community. And so that's why I want to do this. We're just asking that when builders come in, that they do due diligence to make sure they're not having a negative impact on who's here. That's the main reason why I want this law back in.
Laura, how long is it gonna be before we qualify for this discount? The village.
We are still in violation for the national flood insurance, so we have to clear that. And then we have most of our paperwork completed. 'Cause we've tried to get into the program 3 or 4 times. And so we do already have, we've got our stuff together. However, it's gonna take a lot of hours and a lot of paperwork to get in. However, we've had citizens privately working for the past 2 years or more. They cleared up most of the violations and we only have 1 left. We're working to clear that up right now. Just because we have to do it for us, no matter what, if we get in the CRS program or not, we have to do that. But it's well worth our effort to get into the CRS program, even though it's a lot of hard work. I can't tell you the timeline.
From my understanding, it was gonna take a number of years. Plus, we need to get some other things accomplished to qualify for that. Do we not?
Well,
It's not just one issue.
the 1 violation is clear. And I mean, are they gonna do a visit and find more stuff? I don't know. It depends on what building has occurred in the village. They just look it over and see what, what do they see and what's on the book, and they compare.
What do you have to say, Jeff?
I would say once we clear the last problem that we have, that they would probably say that we can join CRS. Once they actually tell us that we're in, we automatically we'll get a 5% discount on flood insurance. The rest of it is time-consuming paperwork nightmare. And to make it significant difference, it's probably going to be years, but it's worth it.
20% max. Discount we can get.
No, it's 45.
Oh, it's more than that.
Years.
There's only 1 municipality in the whole country that gets 45%. And that's in drought-stricken California.
Just go to 2.
Would, and I didn't ask this question the first time.
But we could probably get to 20-25%.
Would leaving this paragraph out disqualify us from getting CRS?
No.
Doesn't disqualify us, but it doesn't help us because it's a points rating system. And so having our laws it's somewhere from 200 to 300 points that we get for our laws.
So let's make local law. Will this apply to only large developments or?
So we've attempted, as I recall, with language to carve out some existing, in-kind, in-place repairs, structures like that. But I believe from correspondence with the DEC, it's clear anything new. So if you wanted to put an addition on your home or larger garage, build a garage or anything like that, then you would need to comply with this requirement.
But these are all things that have project review and building permits required, so they're not little things that people are doing on the side. It's all stuff that passes through the office, so.
And Laura has brought up a few times, there is a variance process under the flood damage law, which could be followed if folks felt there was a need for the dispensation from whatever the flood damage law requires.
How involved is that variance process? Is it, do I just go in front of the planning and zoning boards or?
It would be in front of the zoning board. I'm not aware of anyone in my tenure applying for a variance. Do you? So
No.
I think I was just looking at the variance process. It requires a showing of exceptional circumstances to vary from the flood damage law. And there can be, under the code, no impact on your neighbors, basically. And so if somebody wanted to get a variance from the compensatory storage requirement, they would need to prove that they are not having an impact on their neighbors. Like that is right in the law. It also, interestingly, seems to indicate projects on less than half an acre get a little more wiggle room and technical showing that you need to provide once. Presumably, an idea there being homeowners are less likely to have the wherewithal to put everything together. It literally talks about how larger projects need to show more about how they are not impacting the neighbors. But again, that's a variance process. It's never been applied for. Maybe it was at some point, but not anytime recently.
Nobody would need to.
You guys,
Go ahead.
So I don't know that I fully understood Jeff's interpretation of the impact of this law and his opinion on whether it would mitigate either for or against our inclusion in CRS. If we pass this law, is it more likely for us to be granted CRS membership? Or does it have no impact? Or is it something that if we pass it, we're in?
No.
It's not, if you pass it, we are not definitely in. Because we have some other problems that we need to deal with.
Interesting. I'd like to quote the 2018 Hazard Mitigation Plan for Tyler County and the Owego section. And one of the quotes here, with regards to the community rating system, the village has considered joining and put in an application. CRS came and, there's a word there, that you spell it right, a preliminary site review and stated that the village is in a good position to become a CRS community. So CRS came and told us that we were there.
Yeah, but what's that got to do with the local law too? Rusty, what's that got to do with local law too? No, do I not get an answer to that?
We can't understand you, Ed. You're so garbled. I can't hear what you're saying.
What does that have to do with local law too?
That's CRS. What does that have to do with local law?
Getting into adding the law, having good laws gets you points to get into the CRS system. CRS system, Rusty read from this document it's the county hazard mitigation plan and the recommendations. And they said what does the language say? That it's good, that they recommend that we get into the CRS program and that it's doable.
And we're in a good position.
Good position to enter the CRS program.
That's my point. I didn't know that. That was written.
But again,
21, we're still not.
Because we haven't
but
done it.
again, what does that have to do with local law too?
Now,
Did you ask anybody to get into
Ed was trying to make a comment.
Ed, go ahead.
See,
We didn't hear you yet. Go ahead.
He left.
No, it's still.
Oh, he was there twice. I did.
So I think one of the points that Ed's making is, asking specifically if this is necessary or not to get into CRS. I know Laura mentioned having a stronger law than the minimum provides all points. So it's a point system. What is the point requirement? How many points do you need to be in CRS as a minimum threshold? And then and that provides a 5% discount. How many more points do you need to get the next level of discount? And then if this is 200 or 300 points, what does that mean in the overall point rating system?
I know the mayor and I had meetings that covered all this, but it was last year. So we did cover how much points were in each section. We went over it all with the county and with water and soil. Yeah.
Yes, but what is it? What points do we earn? And on what scale? By adopting local law 2?
There's no guarantee that you can get in, just like when you apply for anything.
But Ed is asking how much more points do we gain?
We don't know.
Right, is it 10,000? Is it 200? What do we gain by adopting local law 2 versus quashing all local development in the village that is sponsored by Team Tioga?
It was 200 or 300 points, but I don't remember what the tiers were with the discounts, like how many points it took to get to the next. They gave us all that a year or two ago.
if I would have known that this law implied that homeowners were protected in the first place, I would have never voted to remove it. Because my only concern is for the current taxpayers, not potential taxpayers. I'm wondering who actually live here. I just wouldn't have voted to remove it if I knew everybody was already protected in that way, which came out after the fact when the DEC said it was implied. Well, implication is a very gray area that wasn't obvious at the time. So that's in my case.
Mr. Mayor, boy, I would like to read Irina Reyes' letter because when I was listening to her speak at the planning board, I was especially, I don't know, moved is the right thing. Irina Reyes is an incredible advocate for the special needs, for the poor, for the lesser communities. She is one of the main activist advocates for those folks. And she had a statement in the planning board about it. And it wasn't really, that planning board wasn't about the local law, but the statement was very interesting. So this person that cares as much or more than anybody, as much or more than Racker Center, as much or more than all the other people that came out with their caring about the need in our community. She said that those people are important, that stuff is important, but what carries the day, I'm paraphrasing her, in this particular instance is the potential flood problems for the people that live here now and the potential flood insurance and tax implications for the people here now. And she ended it with, and therefore I support local law 2. This is a person that cares about development, and cares about poor people, and cares about everything, and still said fabulously. When you put it all together, the thing that you have to take precedence over is what Ron just said. It's about our local residents and their flood danger, our taxes, our water services. So I'd love to see her letter. I have nothing, no, I have nothing else to say. You want to move on?
We have motions or?
Not nothing on the motion. Do you have any desire to make a motion? Then I'm not making a motion. Move on.
Well, the different trustee reports. Right? Yeah.
Okay, for the cemetery committee, the tree removal is coming along very well. Quite impressed. It will be done by the end of the season. I was told just before the last meeting, and I don't know as it was in the minutes, there was a unanimous, anonymous $5,000 donation made to the cemetery.
Wasn't request from the state,
Request,
from the state, somebody died left the village money, and they said they use it for repairs.
okay. And since then, also, there's been another $10,000 donation given to the Friends of the Owego Evergreen Cemetery to be used for the replacement of the guardrail going into the cemetery. So along with Peter Gordon getting more estimates for the repairs of the mortuary chapel, we're also talking with several contractors on what the cost of replacing that guardrail would be, which probably won't happen until spring, but the money is coming in, fortunately.
I'd like to ask you a question if I can, because your report is up to you. So that's wonderful. That 10,000 that goes to the Friends of Evergreen, which is an independent group, how does that blend in with the Friends of Evergreen then give it to the village
Yes,
for the repair? Yeah.
the Friends of Evergreen will give it to
For that.
the village
particular-
for that,
That particular project.
for that project,
Great.
yes.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. No, it's an independent 501c3, but they're working hand in hand with the cemetery committee. They're not gonna go to contractor.
Yeah, they don't have the authority to do that.
Okay, that's all I had to say on the cemetery. I was, the village judge Bolin, he was talking to me about repairs of windows to the court. Now, he said he put in, estimates last spring. And he wants to know what progress on that is. As far as he knows, nothing has been done. He's got cracks and holes in some of the windows there in the court, and he would like to see some progress.
The only other reason we held off last spring was because we were going for a grant to try and get all the windows replaced in the building.
What's happening?
No, the chief's one.
Yeah, we have we're up for a $600,000 grant for repairs to that building. If we get the $600,000 grant, the things that we're gonna do everything in the whole world to that building. So that's one of the reasons we haven't done anything yet. And I know the windows are trouble. We also got, if we're not doing it by grant, went and got a quote from Window World to put vinyl windows in there, which we may or may not be able to do with our own OHVC, but if it's a grant thing, we can't do it with SHPO. If it's not a grant thing, these were pretty nice windows, and it was incredibly affordable. So that would be a possibility if we're not going to be able to do grants. But I know the windows are in bad shape, and they're taping them up, and they're doing this and that.
Yeah, when should that grant be?
Mike, do you know how we're doing on that?
What the timeline is.
Whoever,
Forever, I know.
I don't know.
It's been several years.
Well, this is coming right up now here in the late fall or early winter that this is supposed to be.
Is this a state or federal or?
I think this is state. This is a state grant. I don't know if Brittany is working on it or something like that.
Most of those are decided around the first of the year.
Yeah, it's supposed to be coming up here soon. I mean, soon in a few months.
I think it was federal. I think it's a historic building.
But hurry up and wait.
Well, something needs to be done with those windows before.
If you did anything, they got the grant, would be reimbursed if you sell it.
That's the problem, is we went for the grant first time, and then they did something, but we'd already done the project, like a roof or whatever, because we had.
I mean, can the windows be sealed over, you know? If they have plastic? Well, this is temporary for over the winter time.
Well, I know, but even in the winter time.
Well, the judge says right now they can't be open. They're not open.
It's not a good solution, but it's what you do in your home. Somebody can make a little wood frame and put it in the window with plastic over. It's not a great idea, but it can be done for temporary. And we don't want to be spending it in, the little quote was great, like 12 grand to do all the windows top and bottom. It was incredibly low. But we don't want to do that because for numbers of reasons, including, Shippo angry, you're asking for 600 grand and you play around by lowballing some windows. And so as much as we want to do that tomorrow, it's not a good idea for us to do that.
You can get the plastic that you heat seal around the window.
Yep, that's something you should be able to do.
Can that not be done this fall?
See why not?
Yeah, it's just.
Well, that's plastic, yeah. That plastic is the dollar window up there in the hardware store, so I don't know if we.
Yeah, air dryer, yeah.
But something should be.
Well, I'm just saying, the judge is requesting something be done with that.
They do sometimes use interior storms for buildings like that. And that could just be something that's made for the building that is a winterization thing every
So
year.
it's temporary, it's not part of the structure, and you just put them.
It's something that you do anyway, just to secure for the heat in the building and winterization. And it's something that we can do after the, also do it when the windows are good anyway. After our, probably want to put it on after putting on new security windows.
No, this would be a temporary fix for winter time.
If there's anything Jeff needs, it's more projects.
Yeah.
Whether it's 2-man crew or half a man crew.
Like pulling out the AC unit to get it put in.
Point taken.
Can something be done this fall?
Yeah, we'll find a way to seal what's in them.
Okay, I'll let you know. Thank you.
Laura?
We had a planning board meeting and we had a zoning board meeting. Planning board meeting had its second item. Public hearing is still open the meeting closed after 4.5 hours and will resume Tuesday, the 26th at 7 p.m. for the planning board. The zoning board met and will meet again at the end of this month on the 27th at 6 o'clock. And just as a note, the Tuesday planning board meeting, the time, the normally scheduled time is 7 p.m. OHPC has a meeting on Thursday. There's 3 applications up. They continue to be doing a stellar job with reporting and with communications with people ahead of time to get everything in. And they do have some DRI projects. So if people want to go, that's a cool thing that they'll get advanced knowledge of everything.
When was that again? When was that again?
It's going to be Thursday here.
Which Thursday?
Looking a couple days.
It's going to be 7th, and it's at 7 p.m. and it's here. I guess I still need to get my email, and so can I just stop into the office? Okay, and then, yeah, just for the website to have it be looked at again.
Yeah, we've been trying to fix everything on there. So.
Yeah, my first notice was like on OHPC was saying that their stuff is missing, but then when I went on to find like just regular info for me. I couldn't find our stuff where I know where to look on the website, but it did lose stuff from those.
Yeah, so if you find stuff, let me know, because I've been trying to fix stuff.
Yeah.
Like the planning board and zoning board agendas were on.
Mhm.
We'll call them anybody, they just didn't get their website, whatever. So they were up there before the meeting. They're apparently all gone.
You know, for the public, yeah, the meeting notices and the agendas and our contact info and just like there's just the standard things. Just want to make sure they're there.
Switched companies, like pulled and shut us off. The new one wasn't really ready yet.
I forgot something for the cemetery.
Okay.
I'd like to have it, make sure it's in the minutes. Judge Boland and his wife, with the approval of the DPW, have repaired the brick pillars going into the cemetery. They painted them. They painted the urns that are on the top. They took both of those cast iron gates, the one that was all demolished. They took it to be stripped down and repainted. And he said those should be reinstalled by the end of this week, and they're. So I want to make sure we thank the Bolins for contributing that to the village. So I want to make sure it's in the minutes.
Did Dave feel okay about smashing that gate?
I haven't seen one of their vehicles that's all broken up. Thank you, sorry.
Thanks, Frank. Anything else, Laura?
No, thank you.
Rusty?
Did all my things,
Right?
Just like to remind people that school is back, kids are out in full force, at least for now they're going to school, so just be mindful of them. And actually, yeah, how do you prefer these to be bad, right to the side if they're dropping? I want people to be aware of what the best method is.
The easiest method for us is piled, not in the street, but next to the curb so we can suck them up. That's the easiest thing for us.
I know that's short staff, we want to make it as easy as possible.
Now, how often do you do that during the fall?
Well, almost every day, depending on,
That's all I got.
and we have 2 leaf machines, so.
2 employees, 1 free.
Yeah, that's about it.
More leaf machines than people.
Yeah.
Charles, you got anything?
Well, Jeff has submitted his report, and I think that just about covers everything, the extent of what the DPW has been doing around the village with the projects. Also, keep in mind that all this is in preparation of winter months that are coming. We know they're coming. We know what that entails. Just like to have Jeff extend our thanks and gratitude to the DPW crew, which doesn't get a lot of encouragement from some folks, but they do a very commendable job around the village. I've seen them around, and just if you could relay that thanks, and gratitude from the board of the job that they are doing, that would be very much appreciated. Like I said, Jeff's report just about covers everything. Also want to thank everybody who attended the board members picnic who were there. That was very thoughtful for everybody who has done extensive work this past year, as trustees, and staff workers. That's about all I have.
Good.
Thank you, Fitz.
Thanks, Charles. You still with us?
I just want to add, if I disappear, it's because I work picked up here and I got a lot of trailers I need to park. But right now I'm okay.
Yeah, are you guys looking for me?
Yeah, just trustee reports.
Okay. Not much for me other than the Marvin Park entryway piers are in a state of serious disrepair. I'd like to see if we could maybe figure out what could be done to repair those. I don't know that it would be require an outside contractor, but if Jeff feels that that's necessary, I'd like to see what we could do to get that done.
Isn't that part of the DRI plan to renovate that whole section area?
Yeah, I thought it was, but I didn't know that whether the the entryway is part of that.
Yeah, it can be.
Okay.
That's all. Communications. We got a couple of those letters to figure out.
Rodney, does Rodney have that letter from?
I don't know. She sent it to the planning board. I don't know. She sent it to me.
So plan for
Okay. I got the other two.
Did you bring it for the whole class? Communication?
Oh, I have a question for you. The marijuana law is coming due here sometime. Want to do something about it, you have to have a public hearing.
You do.
You have to have a public hearing. If you don't have a public hearing, then it's going to pass, whatever. So might be a good time to set up a public hearing between now and December.
Well, you have to. We've got to create a law about that. Local law, and then we have to move it to a public hearing. So,
Yeah, the local law drafted, it's swapping names for municipalities. So mainly if the board would like to have a public hearing and public discussion and potentially take action on passing a law to opt out of on-site cannabis consumption in retail dispensary establishments, we can certainly do that.
right. We'll get to do it.
You need to adopt the local law by the last day of the 2021 calendar year. It is subject to permissive referendum, and all of my knowledgeable people who have looked into this more closely say the referendum period can stretch into 2022. You need to have adopted it this year.
And from my reading of it, which I was correct, if we decide to go in that direction, if we do that at the very end, that we can have, and we require that referendum, we can have it in our March election. If we, I may be wrong, that's the way I read that when I was looking at the paperwork on it. But let's pretend that that may be the case. We might consider doing it in case we had to do that at the very end of the thing.
Yeah, typically, if when's the March election? It's like the third Tuesday, second Tuesday,
Third.
Typically, there's a certain amount of time and stuff, but this had some, looked like it had some differences.
There might be, I know there are some differences between the normal referendum process and this process. So ordinarily, I always have to look at the dates because they all need to line up. But if you're within 90 days of a regular election, then a referendum that is a petition for referendum that's filed within 90 days of the election would be heard in the election. So we're real close there if you time it up.
Yeah. I did look at that, but once again, it's not definitive, it was an icon about this, and it was alluding to that, if you have an election coming next November, it's this or that, if you have an election coming in March, that would fit in that tactic, but we need to find that out.
Great.
Oh, I guess that's another communication.
Is that your intern?
So,
He's gonna have public comment, he'll be introducing.
He's putting me to work,
Stimulus money, we were supposed to report on that first, as far as if we expect. We have it to the bank. We just got an email today from Nikon that they moved that date from October 31st to January 31st. Because nobody's figured out how to spend it.
Because it's weird.
We gotta spend it on this big TV we bought.
so so you're saying that first report is due in January instead of now?
We need those TVs, can we buy?
Nice, I guess.
And then go to my house and just do the meetings from there.
People do repurchase television?
We did that. Got it.
Well,
I'm just wondering if that's gonna be adequate in size to use in our auditorium.
it's pretty good.
We should have a larger screen.
It'll be fun.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if anybody hasn't seen the new building, or when they're there. Well, right, no, I'm saying the inside. Or when they'll show it to you. I'll for sure that's Friday. So we have a whole boardroom and offices, and conference room.
Now, when will the roof be done?
They're unloading the roof panels Friday.
So I have a recommendation that we at the board seriously start right now. I don't want to have the discussion tonight. We might actually be able to not stay here 46 hours tonight. To start seriously thinking about the marijuana law and what was the other thing we were just talking about that we had to do?
Public
Stimulus money. Yeah, all those things. Be thinking about them because we probably going to need to take some action on these things very, very soon, but I don't want to discuss the crap out of
Yeah,
it.
well, time flies. I'm thinking, why don't we set a public hearing in December on the marijuana law?
as long as the law is introduced to the board 10 days prior to taking action, I mean, I think you could set a public hearing for anything.
Yeah.
Well, we probably don't want to have a public hearing earlier than that. We probably don't want to get ourselves right to the, we might pass that right at the last, but we want to have more stuff.
Well, I was thinking like the first meeting of the month,
Maybe earlier.
the second
Yeah.
meeting in November.
Why not have it?
It's only 3 meetings away.
We have 60 days after the public hearing to take action. Close the public hearing, we technically have 60 days.
61 days or something.
I have to double check that.
You know that.
Time flies when you're not looking at it.
Well, I was leaning towards there might be a deadline for you to take action. If there's, I haven't had to check this.
Different rules on. Anyways, that's my recommendation. I mean, the board start thinking about this stuff, be getting ready, or do some little talking around and stuff, so that you're, but,
Topics that are coming up all
yeah,
over.
but I say, let's move, I want to move this meeting along, so we don't have to be here all night.
Mayor's report, so I have one thing. Have you talked to Meg about covering planning and going towards meetings?
Say that out again?
Talk to Meg about covering the planning board and zoning board meetings.
No.
You mean being in
Not
attendance?
specifically either, but I heard if we cover her pay, the time of the meeting, she will do the secretarial job that's missing.
I'll talk to her because she wishy-washy's on that.
The board's okay with that, can you propose that to her?
Yeah.
Rusty?
I'll she would do it for the hourly rate or pay rate. Would that be less to her advantage than getting the $50 that we had kind of talked about? What's that?
Globally be overtime.
I'm just saying, but we talked about
As
that.
an employee, she should be paid a flat fee for something like that. She should be getting it.
Just wanted
It
to
affects her retirement.
just wondering how better for her. So
She knows she's a salary employee.
You could add a stipend to her then to cover something additional like that, be equal to her hourly rate.
Go back to that 50 or whatever number it is, to be appropriate. So,
That was the issue.
Yeah, I would think hourly should be considered not just a.
I heard she regularly.
One time she was, and then she wasn't.
Need to fix that, yeah, so.
One thought does occur to me, if Meg wasn't, I mean, you could open it up to any village employee to do that.
I'd rather do it because after talking to Elaine, charging to the county planning board, the requirements they have to be ideal, because she already has all the other stuff that has to go with it.
let's find out if she's interested.
Basically my thing. Other than that. Last thing, public comment? Anybody online?
We did have those letters that
We're not-
were sent to be read aloud
Oh, in the public comment,
for the public comment period.
if you'd like to request that, do so. Do you
All right, so, yeah.
have to request that under there and see if that's appropriate? Yeah, go for it.
So the first letter, regarding public comment during flood mitigation law. I am unable to attend to tonight's meeting. I am sending this letter to be read as public comment at the beginning of tonight's normally scheduled Village of Owego board meeting. This evening, a local law amending Chapter 117 entitled Flood Damage Prevention is coming up for a vote by this board. After attending the contentious planning board of Owego's meeting last week, it became overwhelmingly apparent that the village has no law in place to truly protect the property and safety of residents of pre-existing structures. As a owner of a home, I was shocked to hear that the tear downs being done by the county land bank preparation for the huge affordable low-income housing complex that is proposed to go in on the Liberty Street are simply filling in the basement of cellars. These cellars that hold water during a flood and slow water displacement onto surrounding neighboring houses will be gone. I was shocked to hear that the developer of this project had not completed testing and a runoff study to date, showing that the size of the empty plastic tanks planned to go under the parking lot area of this build were even large enough to deal with runoff of the build's rooftops and parking lot itself. I have been deeply concerned. The mayor's claim that we do not have control over the spill, it is the county, and yet we could have a local law put in place that would look after the community's interests. The interest of the existing tax-based structures, like the one up for the vote tonight. It is a falsehood to say that the new development cannot happen in Owego. It can. Housing and business structures are going up all over the nation in areas with histories of extreme flooding. It is being done carefully, and is having to take into account the increased damage fill and construction may cause with hydraulic studies and standard build studies and smart communities that demand that proper consideration to flood mitigation for pre-existing structures, homes, and human beings are taken into serious account. Moreover, there has been misinformation spread that if someone is rebuilding an already existing building, this proposed law would impact them. It is simply not true. Yes, if an entirely new structure like a huge garage is wanted and that pre-existing footprint does not exist, of course it would have to take into consideration, rightfully so, flood mitigation onto surrounding neighbors. I am not against in any way the building of affordable housing. I am for new builds that are done well. I am for new builds that have studies showing they will not harm me and others. I wish that such IDA tax abatements and discussing a $13 million proposed bill for a mere $380,000 was not happening, since that will mean that already existing taxpayers will be handling the vast majority of the cost of increased coverage for these residents in the form of OSD and OPD services for the foreseeable long-term future, for decades to come. But that was done by the county and the county's agency. But for the village to not have any direct control over what bills happen is unacceptable. Please pass the local law amending chapter 117 this evening to protect our community and your constituents.
So I will say,
From board Young.
in response to some of her comments, I did investigate the land bank filling basements for compository storage regulations. Basements are not considered. You could fill your basement and not be affected. Have to do compository storage because the way the calculations are done, it's assumed the water goes around your house, not through it. So that's why the land bank, and they've done, not just this property, but they've done 6 or 7 other houses in the village where they fill the basements, and that's how they legally do it with all we had.
Well, the question is, are they going to fill it with existing soil that's on the property? Are they bringing soil in?
I don't know that answer.
That's a big difference.
Don't know that answer.
Well, thank you for clarifying that, because I can't see how basements are storage for flood water at this point. I mean,
Right.
if the basements weren't there, the water would go where it's supposed to go during a normal flood. But people have to keep in mind, the entire village is a flood zone. I think some forgot the pictures of the aerial photos of the village. The entire village is a flood zone. I mean, once that Susquehanna River overflows its banks, water is coming in. It's going everywhere, you know? So we have to have housing, but it has to be done in a way like so that there's extensive research of drainage, proper drainage for a normal flood. We can't combat the biggest floods like the 2 that we have. It's going to flood if the Susquehanna floods. I mean, we have the creeks, we have the river, the other arteries of water. Once they flood, the village floods. So, I mean, I think a lot of people have misconceptions about if the water is not going in these basements, these vacant basements, that we're going to get more water in our properties. That's a false. It's physics 101. I mean, come on. The water is going to go where it's supposed to go. If it's not going into a bowl, as I was trying to explain to Rusty at one point, if these bowls weren't there, there wouldn't be water in these bowls. It's like a pothole. When it rains, the water's in a pothole. You see a puddle, but you go drive your car in it, you're going to get damaged. I mean, if these major potholes or bowls, as I was told, weren't there, then that water would not be there. It would go around. It won't add to the volume of water that's in your yard per se. And water in a bowl or sitting for a long time is a hazard to health. It's stagnant water. Where's it going to go? It's got to wait till it evaporates, and then it's just a breeding ground for mosquitoes. I mean, I don't know. I don't know much more I can add to that.
Yeah, my point was just the way the land banks legally fill in those properties, or has been with the law that was in place that we took out. Because they've done 6% property before. So.
Mike, should these messages be read into?
There were comments that Julie typed in. I think she left. So she said that this was about CRS. There's one main violation Clear up the other visit issues. There's work to be done for sure, that's a priority when we've done. And then this one's about the paperwork, there's software package that you do the paperwork.
The CRS program, she's saying there's a software package that helps with the paperwork for the CRS program.
It gives you more points if you have enhanced regulatory standards, just it's a common CRS in general. We also get extra points for having a base flood elevation +2 as an enhanced record, which we do. I mean, regardless of the. And then, right here, she answered our question when I asked how many points per level. So it's 500 points per level.
It's level 5% or I don't know how the levels are.
I don't know. I saw what the thing at one point.
I thought it was.
As far as other comments about the taxes, I mean, we as a board wrote a letter of unsupport to the pilot, so I think we all feel for comments there. It was unfortunate.
Oh, so 5% with just with the 500 points, we would get the 5%. Yeah.
Do you have any other public comment? Either here or online? So we have a couple people online.
We're good.
Nate, did you introduce your
Oh, yes.
colleague?
This is Gina Middleton. She's one of the associates in our firm. She's been with us for over a year now. It's coming up real soon. 1 year anniversary. She was a summer associate with us prior to that. It feels like forever. She's in our public law group. She's tagging along to a bunch of my meetings. You may end up seeing her. Think of her as an understudy. And maybe she'll hit the big time sometime. I don't know.
When you can't come, you gotta send someone.
Gotta send someone.
Yeah. Yeah, he's looking at here. Okay. General one.
Somebody else's. Mikey, I want, are we all done?
Yeah.
I want one last comment, and I will not be talking about this, as it's nothing to do with the flood law. This has to do with, so it was brought up about taxation, and I went to the clerk's office to find out how much all these properties in Owego that we have pilots for, et cetera, are paying all the taxes. We have Franzen 148, Franzen 150 up on Dean Street. We have Long Meadows Apartment. We have free properties from Bruce Nelson, and we have Tyler Gardens, Owego Gardens 1 and Owego Gardens 2. There's good and bad, so we're not getting into a big talk about this. I'm just giving the numbers and then I want to be done. 231 Main, the tax bill on that was $54,000 a year, and the pilot had him pay no taxes for the first 10 years. Across the river at Owego Gardens 1, he had 65 apartments, and they paid us last year a payment in lieu of taxes of $2,000. Owego Gardens 2 is going to come online with 100 apartments. When everybody says we got to have apartments, we got to have places, we got to have things for people, we got 100 apartments coming online over there. Okay. I assume that the pilot will be similar to 1, and if that was the case, the proportion would be we would probably get around, if it starts at all, and again, sometimes you get nothing for a while, it would be $3,000. We continue to have pilot after pilot after pilot does not pay the thing. So when these citizens fuss about taxes, they know what they're talking about. They don't like this pilot after pilot after pilot that we have to absorb all the costs. I'm done with that. Thanks. Move we adjourn.
Before we adjourn, I'd just like to say one more thing. Thank you, Jeff, and everyone else who was involved in purchasing that big screen TV so I could be seen there, larger than life.
You should see the size of your head.
I know, I'm probably huge. They say the screen puts on pounds. I'm gonna leave it at that. I miss you guys. I miss being present there live and in living color with you guys, but this is the next best thing. And although it's a throwback to the COVID days, it's better than a total no-show. So thanks to everybody involved in setting this up. Hopefully, maybe if we can move this to Tuesday, I could be there. It'd be great. Maybe make that happen. You're the mayor.
Yeah, just a quick question.
Sure.
Probably no answer to it, but I was curious. I've been to a lot of meetings, a lot of these things, and the pilots have always been. Okay, sorry.
I'm sorry, I was in the middle of it.
I asked that question, and it has to match the funding for the building. So they have a 30-year loan.
Because all the others have always been 10. I thought that was like a standard.
I asked that same question.
Called a deviated pilot.
It has to match the length of the loan that they're taking out.
That's the argument.
There you go. I still move to adjourn.
One thing, guys, somebody
That's all.
came, I know, somebody
One thing more.
came, somebody came and was gonna put that for the crop walk, but they had to leave, right?
They did.
Before you got here.
Oh, sorry, guys. Okay. I did notice that public comment was removed from the beginning of the meeting, and so I just didn't know if you got something that wasn't on the agenda.
Gotcha.
And we still get public comment.
Okay, good.
Still move to adjourn.
I said,
All right.
Yes.
Have a good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.